Thank you so much for tuning in today. I've been mentioning wanting to start my podcast, and I'm officially starting it. I'm so glad that you chose to join me today. I have my friend Jared here, and we're going to talk about life with Jesus in general. We're both in our 20s, and I'm going to be inviting a other couple of my friends just to join me and talking about life, sharing things with you guys, because I know as young adults, we're just doing life together, and we need the support we can get. So, thank you for joining, and yeah, just sit back and enjoy this episode. Okay. Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Welcome. Thank you for being the first guest on Talks with Temmie.
No, I feel very honored.
Nice. How are you feeling?
I feel very warm right now.
Okay.
Because it's about 76 in my apartment.
Oh, hell.
But other than that, life is really great.
Nice.
Really, really great.
You just got back from a trip. How was that?
Oh, it was so much fun. We went to San Francisco, and it was my first time there. Me and Jeannie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my girlfriend Jeannie. It was so much fun, and I didn't really know what to think of San Francisco, but it just blew my expectations out of the water, and it was beautiful there. Got to see so many touristy things, and yeah, it was such a blast. I couldn't recommend going enough.
Oh, nice. How do you feel to be back?
Oh, I am happy to be back. Just get back into the normal schedule, but it's been a lot of catch up since then with work and stuff.
Gotcha. Wait, what do you do for work? I actually don't know that.
Yeah, I work for Gateway Church in Austin.
I did know that.
And yeah, I do videography and then also do freelance videography. Work on a podcast with John Burke.
No way.
Yeah. So he'll send me the video files and I'll edit them for him.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't know that. That's
we just shot a near-death experience with this girl who's she's in her 30s, and she had a really tragic jet ski accident that she, like, a lot of her internal organs ended up like coming out of her.
Oh my god.
While she was conscious, and then she
Oh my gosh.
ended up medically dying. Experienced a lot of crazy things. It was a super powerful story. She ended up meeting with God, and he told her a lot of things about her life, and then she ended up converting to Christianity afterwards, because she described herself agnostic. She didn't really care. I mean, she was a young teenager when it happened, so it's like, I think it just wasn't a focus for her, but it was really, really powerful. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I'm so glad she had a turnaround. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you grow up in faith? Did you grow up in the faith? Was your family in faith? When did you, own your own faith?
Yeah, that's a good question. My dad was a pastor for the first 2 years of my life, and after that he had handed off leadership to somebody else. But I've always called myself a pastor's kid, unofficially.
PK.
Yeah, so, and it was a very, really solid home as far as faith goes. Got raised, reading through the first 5 books of the Bible. Before I was 10, we would all read them and have Bible study as a family. It was really good. I feel like it was a lot of head knowledge that I was learning, and it wasn't a lot of experiential knowledge of Jesus,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that ended up coming really in the past couple years, now that I've really focused in my walk with God, and gotten to see so many cool things, volunteering with the students and also just the 20s and 30s group. I really gotten to witness life transformation in my own life, and also just being able to be there as other people are going through the same thing I went through, 5 years ago. Yeah, so it's been really powerful.
Wait, what happened 5 years ago?
Yeah, I guess I never really lost my faith, I don't think. It just became not as much of a priority in my life.
Gotcha.
Definitely through college, I think, I was doing a lot of working on the weekends, and so kind of got out of being in community with church and stuff like that, and definitely got led astray in a lot of ways, and just valued things that weren't that valuable. And I think it really took me being removed from a lot of like really bad friendships, bad relationships, like that kind of stuff, that I was like, wow, I really was led astray, you know, like it wasn't even anything intentional that I was doing. It's just like kind of like the slippery slope of being, you know, it's like you're a sailor and like you're trying to go towards point A to point B. If you're 1 degree off, you know, it's like, if you're only go down a little bit, it's not that bad. But once you keep going 1 degree off for miles and like keep going down that way, it's like the difference gets greater. So like it was definitely like something like that, where it's just like I got off a little bit, and then a couple years down the line, it was like, wow, I didn't even know like how I ended up in this position. Yeah, honestly.
I get that. Yeah. So when did you like? It's good that you were aware of that, because some people just grow numb to it and you just end up going down that same path and lose yourself. So how did you get back on the path with Christ? Was it like did you join Gateway and meet people, or was it more of like a intimate moment with you and God where you're just like, oh, I need to lock back in? Or
it was definitely more of an intimate moment, and it happened even before I moved to Austin. It was after college and feeling like it was right around COVID time, so I was kind of just stuck in my hometown that I grew up in. A lot of my friends had gone away, gotten big boy, big girl jobs, and I was, you know, working a job I hated. And it was really just feeling like totally isolated in like a city where there's not a lot of people living, that I was like, the only person I really have is Jesus. And like, I think there was a lot of life transformation that happened in like the course of 6 months. And a lot of it was due to my father too, because he, even though I like had gotten out of the rhythm of going to church weekly and being connected with, you know, godly friends, he was always inviting me without the expectation of me going. And so it was like, it'd be a random like Thursday, Sunday. He's like, would you want to go to church with me this Sunday? And I'd be like, oh, I'll think about it. But just the invitation without the expectation is like what made me want to go even more than having like something that was forced on me. I know it really was a slow process, but like over the course of several months and just like being under my dad's Sunday school teaching and like a lot of that kind of stuff, I saw a lot of growth just in my personal relationship with Jesus.
Wow, that's so big, because I know there are times that I would invite people to things and they don't show up necessarily, and I'm like, that kind of sucks, but also not forcing it is very important too, because I could easily just pull them by the ear and be like, hop in my car, we're going. But yeah, it means a lot too. Even like if people are, you know, that feeling when people are planning something and you don't know about it, but if someone was to be like, hey, we're doing this, would you like to come? And you're like, no, I'm good. That still, I don't know, it makes a difference where you're like, I'm glad you still invited me, even though I wasn't able to go, rather than not inviting you at all. So that's big to point out. Like, invite people, guys. Like, if you're watching this, invite people to things, because you never know when it can actually change someone's life. Like, it really could.
And that really is the model that Jesus had in the Gospels, right? Is like the invitation to himself without him forcing people. And I think that it's like the open table idea of just like God's house being an open table for people to come and explore God. And like, you know, obviously like you want life transformation as you like keep coming back and back, but like the expectation is low, you know. And I really feel like having that, it kind of like was like, oh, I don't need to clean up to go to church. Like I can just show up and not talk to anybody and like be miserable just because of my own stuff going on. And it's like, you know, God's still working, even though it's not like, you know, like all in an instant like that.
Very true. I know I was talking about this with a couple of friends of mine, and we mentioned like coming as you are, but Jesus loving so much where he doesn't want to leave you as you are. You know, like it's okay to be in a spot where you just feel like you can't give any more, like you feel like everything just got taken away from you, like things didn't work out your way at all, maybe you got dropped from something, maybe you don't have a job anymore, and you just genuinely feel hopeless. But God still wants you to come in that moment. But also knowing that, yes, he wants you to come in that moment. He wants you to sit with him. But then he's going to bless you with opportunities where people invite you places where he's like, you should go to church. Or an event pops up that you happen to have the time to go to. And he works in those little times. And before you know it, you're working for Gateway.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you have like godly friends, and you're
Yeah.
going in the right direction. You're back on track with where God wants you to be. So it's like going to Him regardless of how you're feeling,
Mhm.
but also knowing that He wants you to feel better. So He's gonna help you get
Yeah.
there. You know, I think that's huge to point out, especially in your 20s when a lot of things are changing. So many things
Yeah.
are changing, and I feel like I personally sometimes just feel so unstable with like every season being something different, and a
Mhm.
part of me just wants it to just stay consistent like for a year.
Yeah.
But also I'm like, it's kind of fun going through this and seeing where
Yeah.
God has me after, I don't know, 3 months, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and I think just like going back to the invitation part of it, I think a lot of it wasn't even I think the things that really changed my life. I mean, the Holy Spirit obviously was working, but it wasn't like, I think a lot of people have an idea of coming to faith as like this divine moment where like the sky opens up and like a light shines on you, and like you just feel totally transformed in an instant. And that didn't really happen for me, but what I did encounter was like the Holy Spirit through God's people. And I feel like that really changed a lot of it, because I had a lot of hurt from church and stuff like that. Just growing up in church, like that just comes about just being in the church for your whole life.
Yeah.
And so it was really amazing that like the things that I feel like really made me distant from God and the church and like through God's people is the thing that kind of brought me back.
Yeah.
And it was like the vehicle of destruction became like the vehicle of healing in a lot of ways. And so
So good.
I thought it was, yeah.
You like turned it around. And I actually want to bring up that verse we were talking about, because I know you mentioned the friends one, and then
Yeah.
and I think this is something that I've seen a lot in Gateway, where they really prioritize like spending time together in community and being with people. Because again, like when you're doing things by yourself, it's very easy for the enemy to feed you lies and you believe those lies, and
Yeah.
then there's no one around you to pick you back up, you know?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's so devastating. I can't, like, I think the one I pointed out to you was Hebrews 10:24 and to 25, and it was like, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of His return is drawing near. And then you mentioned your verse 2. I'd like you to read that.
Yeah, it was 1 Samuel 18, 1 through 4. And I heard a powerful message by the student pastor, Isaiah. And it's funny because like whenever I went to hear the sermon, my bookmark was on the same page as the passage that he read from.
That's pretty cool.
And so it was like, I feel like a God link,
Yeah,
you know?
yep.
But it was kind of talking about friendship, and it was the story of David and Saul's son. So it was 1 Samuel 18, 1 through 4. After David had finished talking with Saul, he met with Jonathan, the king's son. There was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. From that day on, Saul kept David with him and wouldn't let him return home. And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself. Jonathan sealed the pact by taking off his robe and giving it to David, together with his tunic, sword, bow, and belt. Yeah, and I love the part of him taking his robe off, because it's like, seems like a small moment, but it's a moment of like, part of me is becoming part of you. And it's like, when you're in community with godly people, a part of your identity gets wrapped together with other people that you're believing with and walking with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of how it's always been designed like that. And it's like, the tool of the enemy is to separate people off and siphon them off to the side and get them away from community, because I think that that's where a lot of, like you said, the lies get told.
Yeah.
And a lot of it for me, especially like when I was going through a dark season, was believing the lies of the enemy that I thought like were my own beliefs. And I think that like, and a lot of it had to do with like anxiety and like just being kind of anxious around people in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think that that was also a tool that the enemy used to kind of separate me from God's people. And then like that's when like the whispering starts, right? Where it's like, do you really think, it's like, how the devil is like in Genesis, like the first thing Satan says is like, well, did God really say that?
Yeah.
And it's like, is that who, kind of like testing Adam and Eve's identity, because he's like, oh, like you can know what God is, you can be closer with God. And it's like, they already were.
Yeah.
And it's like him convincing them that their identity wasn't actually in Christ and in God. And like, that's kind of what led to the downfall, was, people being siphoned off away from God and pushed to the side, and then like believing the lies of the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I feel like once God's got you through all those things, and it's not like it's never going to happen again. I feel like life is always going to life. Like something's going to come along and it's going to knock you out, and you're going to have to get back up again. But you get to get back up again, and God's there to help you through it. But like once you feel like you're at least a little bit stable, and there are people all around us that do need encouragement, like we did when we were not okay, being that person to another person too means so much. Like, do good with what God has done in your life. Go out there. He's poured so much in your cup that you're able to pour into other people's cup. Like, I think you do a great job at that. You're great at serving. You serve with students, and I'm pretty sure they look up to you as a leader. So thank you for that. Thank you for just, using the gift that God has given you to serve his people, but also like not keeping it to yourself, because that would be selfish. He's blessed us with all these things, and he wants us to go out there, and you're doing that, and I think we should all be doing that. And I like when the pastor this past Sunday, he talked about just literally showing our faith through our actions, and then if necessary using words. And I think that really stuck with me, because if you just, people are not really, they're not always gonna just like sit down there and have you preach to them. It's like the way you act towards people. Are you kind? Are you serving? Are you selfless? Are you like humble? If someone's walking behind you and you're holding the door open, do you slam it in their face, or do you hold it for them? Maybe not when they're a mile away, but like just little things like that. Like, do you think about other people when they're coming in? Do you help grab a chair? Do you help clean up after yourself? Just little things like that. And then I think little by little, when people see that light in you, they get curious.
Yeah.
They're like, why are you so happy?
Yeah.
Wait, how did you get through that? Wait, actually, can you tell me genuinely, like, how did you get through that? And then that gives you an opportunity to share your faith. And that's not to say you shouldn't, like, share the gospel up front either. That's just to say, hey, the way you live should reflect the gospel. It should reflect how Jesus has brought you up, and how he's raising you, and how you should be walking with him. And you do a great job at that. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey. Yeah, I mean, I like the part where you said, like, you can't give what you don't have. And I think for a lot of my faith walk, I didn't have a lot to give. Because, I mean, the Holy Spirit, whenever he encounters you, you get filled with his presence, and then you have, like, an excess to go and give out to other people. And that's why it's important being around, like, God's community, is because it's, like, it's life-giving. And just the capacity that you have, that I've, like, come to know, and like I've grown in, it's kind of exceeded my expectations, even in such like a short time frame, because I just started volunteering with students a little over a year ago, and I feel like we're always on a path of growth, but like the Christian that I am now is so much more like the ceiling is higher, right? And so like I think the capacity to give out more has just gotten bigger as I've like given out more. And I think it really was like taking that first initial step of volunteering is what led to that. And it kind of like, it was like a slow walk down a path. And like, as you go further along, like God keeps raising the ceiling for you. And so it's like you kind of exceed what you thought your limit was before.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too to do things where it's not just serving you.
Yeah.
I feel like volunteering really does make a huge difference in a Christian's life.
Definitely.
Like giving effort and putting energy into something where you don't get anything back. It's more like you're just serving God's people. It definitely helps ground you a little bit more, and like puts things in perspective where it's like, oh, I'm just helping this person out. You're helping another person.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just takes us away from like being in our heads so much to just doing something. And yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, that is such a good point. Because I remember in 2017, I had gone through a really rough time just with being overworked, and like I was also in school. And so I was like working multiple jobs while also being in college. And so like I built up I was like a tight ball of anxiety. And I was also depressed. And I think that like some of the things that like really broke me out of that and like shook it up was volunteering. Because if, like you said, it's like anxiety and depression, which is like something so many people suffer with, is like very inwardly focused.
Yeah.
Anxiety is like, what do other people think about me? Like I can't, I have to like act a certain way because like what if they think this about me? What if they think that about me? And like depression being the other side of it, where it's like, thinking of yourself like really low, and it's like it's very inwardly focused. And when you start to give, it's like the arrows start getting pointed outwards instead of inwards. And so I think that like that's such a profound point that you made.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I want you to give us one advice to a young adult who's watching this right now. What is something you would, if you were to give them just one advice in general, what would it be? After all the things you've learned and are still learning, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's so simple, but just stay connected to the vine. I think that that's all the times in my life where I've kind of gone astray is when I stopped showing up. And even if I would show up physically, I wasn't showing up spiritually, not showing up mentally. So like being fully present in the presence of God's people is honestly, especially in your 20s, as you go through a lot of life change, a lot of different jobs, you might have different friendships and stuff like that. Staying connected to the vine is the only thing that's going to remain constant in your 20s. And I can say that as a 28-year-old, like every year something changed in my life, except for, being close to God, or God pursuing me, I should say. And so I think that that's been the only constant. And it's kind of like something you said earlier reminded me of like, if the devil is like a roaring lion, the lion doesn't attack the pack, like it attacks a zebra that gets away from the pack.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that are really in danger of being pursued by the enemy, is the ones that get away from the group and, might not be any fault of their own, they just happen to get away, and it's like, then the lion is there to eat your lunch. Yeah. And so like, that's the one advice I can give is to stay connected to the vine.
Clocked
preach.
That was so good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making the time for this and just helping me like launch this. I'm so glad you're my first guest. You had so many good stuff to say. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you took something out of this. And I hope to see you in the next episode.